I'm pretty good at school, but still I'm forced to go, it's boring. So I decided to flip my argument a bit, and I thought, what could be a best example of motivation for me? And so I realized what truly taught me all of this. And I realized, well, sports. My sport. Or at least what used to be my sport. Oh, there is no transitions. Okay. So, a few years ago, I quit rhythmic gymnastics because I had to study and I had to move, so it was a bit too much. Yeah, I was bored in science class. Again, I couldn't talk about school and sport. And my Russian desk mate told me about this documentary, which is called Winner Takes It All, about Russian gymnasts. And there I realized it wasn't just a mention that I made of a professional sport in my university statement. That, oh, well, yeah, teamwork and yeah, I learned to handle stress. It was a bit more. I realized I could see this sport in a different way. So there was this part of the documentary in which this girl was crying because she broke her foot or she couldn't practice she couldn't go to the Olympics or the World Championship. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, that's so good, no stress, it's fine, you stay home. Yeah, the girl was crying, and I realized I overcame the memory of competition stress that I had in the sport and the negative part of it. And I realized what really was that rhythmic gymnastics taught me about motivation in some way. It taught me that it was the first instant in which my motivation was so important and on which I had complete control. In school, it wasn't the same thing. All of my work depended on what I did during the training in some way. So it was still a bit hard, and I realized this, but I was like, well, and I realized there's 3 key elements: direction, decision, and dedication. Well, I realized with the help of a psychologist from the University of San Francisco, I googled this a bit, and he gave these 3 keys, and I thought, well, yeah, but how can I put this back to my point of view? So what did sports teach me about direction? In some way, fix myself a goal. In the routine you do in rhythmic gymnastics, it's a 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes thing, and you have 9 elements. You can't do everything. You just need to focus on the things that you can do, or the things you want to challenge yourself, and you work on those. But is it always as smooth? Is it always as easy? You just do that? There's a grind part. It's the moment in which you're not motivated to have fun. Normally, you're not motivated to have fun. You're motivated when there's an obstacle, when there's sacrifice, when there's pain. And that is the moment that you realize in some way that you have to take a direction because it's not as easy. So I realized that the rope routine wasn't for me. I realized that after 10 years of gymnastics, that wasn't for me either, and I loved it, but it wasn't my career. And so now you might say, oh, well, then you didn't find a direction what we're talking about. But no, what I found was that the work I had done, I found out now basically, was actually that it wasn't lost. All the motivation I learned to build could be applied to other things. So that's why I believe it motivates me now. What about decision? I think this idea is very important because in some way I understood that although I might have difficulties and no direction, actually this picture represents it. Something could still light up in the little bulb. And that was that I could make a decision about exploiting the fact that I didn't have a direction actually. So decision is the key link between the direction you have and your actual motivation and dedication. We have countless ideas in our heads. What this psychologist said about sports, he's a sports psychologist, is that a lot of people say that they want to go to the Olympics, but how many of them actually play and practice to do this? So this might be the most challenging part, getting over the grind, actually do something, but it's your decision that allows you to be motivated and dedicated, and is so well represented in sports. And then dedication and motivation. Dedication and motivation go hand in hand, because if you're not motivated, you're not going to dedicate. And if you're dedicated, you must be motivated by something. It's not always the same for everybody, so that's why I want to show you my own take on this. You might be unable to take a specific direction, but it's the decision to acknowledge that you have no direction that actually helps you. So in rhythmic gymnastics, unless you try an element a lot of times, you're not going to get as above the points that you got the previous time. So for the first time you do a simple turn, if then you add an element with a rope or the ball, this is going to add points. So what really is necessary is that you try, you practice the 3 Ps, and eventually you add up. So if you're not dedicated, you have to find the motivation to do this. So you realize what makes me motivated. What makes me motivated is the satisfaction of having known that I gave my best in this, that I actually tried my best to do it. And so at the end of the day, in some way, even though the routine or the part didn't work, what motivates me is knowing that I worked the hardest. And rhythmic gymnastics in sport is so concrete because you just see it on your body, you know? You see the muscles and all the work you've done, even though it doesn't work for now, it's going to help you in your future routines. So it also went up to my failed maths test, my history test. I knew that I could be satisfied and motivated because all of the work I'd done could have helped me after, and so I could stay motivated. I was able to understand this when I saw the poor girl crying, and suddenly I realized she didn't care about the stress about the competition. She knew that was coming, but that wasn't what she cared about. She literally saw all of her work go away. All of her dedication was going away. What stayed with her? Did motivation stay with her? That's the question that I asked myself. So what makes me strive for the thing is the 11-year-old me that used to try the exercise and could make me satisfied about the exercise in the end. So another question came up to my mind, and it was, is there motivation without failure? Can one find motivation in failure? What I would ask myself was, in rhythmic gymnastics, what I learned is to ask myself, was I dedicated enough? And was I not dedicated because I didn't feel motivated? So the question was, am I gonna look for another wall, like the one I showed you, and jump over that? Or am I gonna just try again if I am in the pit of shame and try to reach up again? If you think about it, and I believe this image represents it very well, if you see the flag, what is more important, the small flag for you that is on the mountain, or in some way what the guy is looking at, so the whole mountain he reached? What do you think?
The guys.
So what he's looking at? Or yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, what I agree with you. When you're at the top of the mountain, you don't look at your feet. You look at what you've been doing.
What you've achieved,
yeah,
you know?
So what you've achieved and how much you've done for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what motivation is for me. It's really this idea of realizing how much work you've done and how proud you are of what you do. And so you strive for it in everything you do. Which was from sports, which taught me this, up until my university.
Excellent. Well done. Well done.